Today I'm going to show you how to use StrideID, which is our new fit and running app. That training is going to consist of two parts: how to use the 3D scanner and how to use the video gait analysis. But before we get into the training, let's deal with the elephant in the room, which is that all of these applications by our competition have failed. You've all seen them gathering dust and looking pretty lonely in stores around the world. And they fail for three reasons: not addressing the consumer expectation gap, the treadmill itself, and a lack of training. Now, by the consumer expectation gap, what I mean is that when customers walk into our stores, what they want to do is buy a cool pair of shoes. They're really not expecting a technical process. So we've worked really hard to keep StrideID simple and engaging for customers. The second reason they fail is that nobody wants to use that treadmill because they don't want to be the center of attention in the middle of a busy mall when they're not dressed for it. And thirdly, there's usually a lack of training. So hopefully this video goes a long way to address the third thing. Okay, so now we're going to get into how to use the 3D scanner. So we're going to start with the 3D scan. Now this is a world first. We're the only brand to be using this technology now. And it is fantastic for the teams on the floor because you never have to touch your customer's feet again. For those of you that spend a lot of time fitting shoes, you'll know that is outstanding news. So what we're going to do now is get Alessandra to do the 3D scan so we can show you exactly what it looks like. So to start the 3D scan, we simply press the 3D scan button in StrideID, which launches the process. And then all we have to do is choose, are we going to scan for women's shoes or men's shoes? So at this point, all you want to do is ask your customer to take their shoes off, cuff their pants, and step onto the scanner. You want to appear really natural and in command here because your customer wants to feel like they're in safe hands. So, Alexandra, if you could just take your shoes off for me, please. It's important that your customer, when they take their shoes off, cuffs their pants. Now, that's not important in Alessandra's case because she's wearing tights. But if she was wearing pants, she'd have to cuff them because the 3D scanner actually takes a video and it needs to see her ankles in order to do it properly. We also have to make sure that her socks are pulled tight, as they are. If they're loose on the toes, it'll read that loose fabric as part of your foot. And now there are some socks that the scanner cannot read. If it has a problem with reading the socks, it'll tell you, and you just need to have a spare pair of socks to hand. So could you just step onto the scanner, please? When your customer steps on, important they just look ahead, because if you move around, your feet will move. So she just looks ahead, and all we're going to do is press this button here that says scan for women's shoes. Now, as we press that, there's a ring going round, and on the scanner, there's an LED ring going around too. Once that LED ring finishes, the scan's complete. Thank you. It only takes a couple of seconds. And here on screen, we can see her feet, and we can move them around and get any view we like. We can see she's perfectly symmetrical, 6.5 both feet. The majority of customers you'll find actually have a half-size difference, and we need to fit for the larger size. As we scroll down these tiles, if we touch them, they'll give you the view that they relate to. And so you can see her ball width is narrow. And down the bottom here, we see her arch height. And there's her left arch, which is a little low, and her that was her right actually, and her left, which is slightly higher. So if you have your privacy policy set up, you can actually email this dynamic scan to your customer and they can do all of this on their phone. Once you've finished that part of it, we press the StrideID button up here and we're back in to the next part of the process. So the 3D scan is super simple because you don't have to do anything. The scanner does it all for you. With the video gait analysis, we need a bit more training. We've worked really hard to keep it simple, and you should see that in a second. So the first thing we need to understand is there are three types of runners: flexible, neutral, and rigid. Now you likely know those as pronators, neutral runners, and supinators. But we do not want to use that technical language with our customers because the vast majority of them don't understand it. So by flexible runners, we mean that their foot is too flexible and rolls in too much when they run, causing their legs and knees to be out of alignment. Neutral runners means they're nicely aligned through the hips, knees and feet when they run. All of those line up pretty nicely in a straight line. And rigid runners don't roll in at all, really. All the weight stays on the outside of their foot all the way through the gait cycle. So 3 types of runners. What we're now going to cover is the ABC of New Balance gait analysis, and what we're going to learn to do is how to identify which of those 3 types our customers are. So we've talked a lot about simplicity, and this is a pretty complex area that we've looked to make super simple. So the ABC of gait analysis is axis, for leg axis, base strike, and control line. So if we start with leg axis simply means how do our legs and feet work when we're standing still? So if you just have a look at my legs, what we're going to get our customer to do at the beginning of this process is stand with their legs together. And if their ankles touch and their knees either touch or there's less than a finger between the knees, they're neutral. If their ankles touch and there is 2 or more fingers between their knees, they are rigid. And if their knees touch and their ankles don't, they are flexible. Now, we are not suggesting that you go up to your customers and put your fingers between their knees to work this out. This is simply an observation that takes you a second. Okay, so that's leg axis. The next part is base strike. And what that means is what part of the foot lands first when you run. So if you have a look at my foot, I think we're all familiar with heel strike. So the heel lands first, followed by the rest of the foot when they run. Mid-foot strike is when the ball of the foot lands first and is followed by the heel when they run. And forefoot strike, the front of the foot lands first and the heel never touches. Foot strike's really important because for mid-foot and forefoot strikers, we have to put them into a neutral shoe. And that's because in supportive shoes, all the technology is behind the ball of the foot. So because they land up here, they can't activate any of this technology. So it's really important to understand what part of the foot lands first so we can give them the right technology to support the way they run. Last, and probably most important, is the control line. And what we're looking to do with the control line is understand the relationship between their foot and their leg when they're running. And what we want to see is whether, when we draw a line from the middle of their heel through the Achilles tendon, if that goes straight up and meets the knee, they're well aligned and they are neutral. If that line comes up inside the knee, so the middle of the heel through the Achilles tendon, as we draw that line up, if that line comes inside the knee, they're flexible because they've rolled in too much. That's why that line comes in, because the foot's rolled in. And if that line comes up outside the knee, then they're rigid and they haven't rolled in at all. To execute the control line is when to draw it as your customer runs when you're doing the gait analysis. And what you want to do is find the position where all of their body weight is on one leg. So you want to get into the position where all their body weight's on one leg and their knees are parallel. So it's not here and it's not here. These are parallel together like that. And that's because that's peak load bearing. All of your body weight is through one leg, and that's when your legs are under the most stress when you run. So now we're going to do it for real. Feet and legs work when she runs. So Alexandra, when I count you down, if you run to the end of the track and back as naturally as possible, please. 3, 2, 1. Now we can just scroll forward like this to see how Alexandra runs. Now the first couple of strides, typically your customer is going to be in Usain Bolt mode and on their toes as they take off. So we just get through the first stride or so, and then we can see how your customer is landing. So what we're looking at here is base strike. So you just scroll forward and you can pinch in and out like you can on any other app to a point where their foot is about to touch as they run, and press that button to take a snapshot, and then just press that little circle and bring it over the point of contact, touch the screen, and the box around will disappear. And now you can explain to your customer that they are, in this example, landing on the heel. So Alexandra, you've got 3 times your body weight going through a pretty small part of your heel with every stride you take. That's probably like 3 a second. So we need to give you something nice and cushioned in the heel to deal with that impact. Mm-hmm. So it's a great opportunity to talk about the technology in the shoes in a way that's personal and relevant for your customers. So to get rid of that annotation, you just click it and press the bin button, and then we go back, because we've now done leg axis and base strike. The last bit is control line. So I'm just going to scroll forward until the next stride and zoom in. And what we're looking for here, remember, is the whole foot is on the ground. There we go. And we want the 2 knees parallel. So not there, but there. So knees parallel. And I'm just going to move this up slightly. And then I'm going to take another snapshot. And then to draw the control line, I simply hold my finger on the screen, and I get that nice big target. I'm going to find the middle of her heel, which is there, and draw the control line up and through the middle of her Achilles tendon. So I'm not looking where it lands on her knee. I'm simply finding the middle of her heel and up through her Achilles tendon, which is that tendon between her 2 ankles there. So Alexandra, what we can see is that you are a bit flexible and you roll in as you run, because that control line is coming up and meeting your knee. So we need to give you something with a bit of support. So Alexandra, because your foot is a little flexible, we need to give you some support. So the supportive shoes are on this panel here. So any of those you like to look at?
This one?
Yeah, perfect. Well, we know you're a perfect size 6.5, so we'll get you into those. So now we're going to take a video of Alexandra in a pair of shoes that both suit the way she runs and she likes the look of. Be careful about not trying to be too prescriptive with shoes, because the aesthetics do play a major role. So, Alexandra, when we count you down, if you could just run to the end and back again, please, that would be great. 3, 2, 1, go. So this is a video of Alexandra in her 1260s, and we'll see how that has changed the way her legs and feet are working together when she runs. So off she goes, and you can see she's still landing on her heel. And if we just go through and we zoom in, let's have a look at the control line on that foot now that she's in what we think is the right shoe. So if we just press and hold, we get that nice big target on the middle of her heel, take it up through her Achilles, and what we can see, Alexandra, is your foot and leg are much, much straighter. So that dual density midsole has straightened you up really nicely. That's going to help you run nice and injury free. So the last thing we're going to do is just compare those 2 videos. If we just get rid of that and go up here, we're just going to pick out 2 videos by pressing select, like that, compare. So we'll have to flip across. And we are going to do a manual sync by scrolling forward and scrolling forward. And what we want to do is get her to the same point in both shoes, which is about there. And we want to zoom in. And now we just press this lock button over here and we get to a single scrub bar. So we can see that round about there on both feet, you can see that she is nice and neutral there, and here she's coming up inside and her foot is rolling in a little as it flexes. So what we want to do is take a snapshot of that so we can send it to her. And if we just go to press this button here and click Add Customer Details, apologies, I pressed the wrong button. If we press Add Details, we can then add in all of Alexandra's details and email both that scan and the gait analysis to her. So foot strike, we're going to put in, and we know that that's heel. A lot of this is already populated from the scanner. So foot size, gender, all of that's in there already. Foot flexibility, we know she is flexible, not very flexible, but flexible. All the sizing's done, as is the widths. The model she bought was a 1260. So there it is there. And are you going to buy those, Alexandra?
Yep.
Well, we find with this process, conversion runs at about 90%, which is a great driver of sales. And we can then go down and save. If I slid that bar across, I could then attach all those videos and email them to Alexandra so she would have them all. But I press save and exit, and we just go yes. And that is StrideID. So thank you for your attention. That is StrideID. As we said at the outset, we've worked really hard to make this simple and engaging for customers. That video takes about 6 seconds. The 3D scan takes a matter of about 5 seconds. And when you do it right and you get used to using it, we find that conversion, in other words, the number of people that do this and we sell the shoes, runs at about 90%. So it's a great way to drive sales and educate your customers and give them an experience that will get them to come back and shop you again. So it is a world-first technology. Please do some role plays so you can learn how to use the ABC of gait analysis, axis, base strike, control line, so that you're not experimenting on your customers, and get out there and get after #1 in running. Thank you, New Balance.